For those of you who've just tuned in to listen to this interview, you know who the guest is already because you can see when you click on the video, you know who the guest is. Else you wouldn't click on the video. But I've got to do this. Special guest today on Bayloric TV, Big George Foreman. Oh, I had to do that. Champ, I had to do that.
No worries.
Okay, so we're talking to George Foreman the Third.
Yep.
I got that right, yeah?
Yep.
Great. Okay, thank you so much for talking to Bayloric TV, George.
Oh, glad to be with you, man. Glad to be with you. Can't wait to get started. Anything you want to ask, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, great. First of all, question I've got to ask before we talk about boxing. I mean, you know, obviously your father, Big George Foreman, oldest person to win a heavyweight championship of the world, made a big comeback. They always show the video over and over again of him against Muhammad Ali. You know, that's always the most famous thing, him getting beat by Muhammad Ali and all the rest of it. And of course, coming back and knocking out Michael Moorer. But the one thing that I've always wanted to ask anyone in George Foreman's family is, you all called George, right? If I'm correct.
That's right.
Right, so if you all get called George, how do you know when it's your turn to turn up? Or when George calls you, when your father says, George, come here, what do you do?
You know, the old joke my dad would say is he would just say George, and when we get there, he'd sort it all out after that. But no, the truth is we all have nicknames. Nobody in the household is referred to as George except my father. So you have Big Wheel, Red, Joe, who's also, his name is George. You have one that we call Little George, who's my brother, just George Jr., and then they call me Monk. And the joke is, when my dad, when I was born, he went crazy. He named me George Edward Foreman after him, and he gave me his same exact nickname. My dad's nickname is Monkey too.
Okay, so that's why you call the Monk then.
So yeah, exactly. It gets confusing, but he says he was preparing for memory loss. You know, getting hit in the head so much by Muhammad Ali.
Do you ever tease him? Do you ever tease him about that fight?
He said, "Do I ever tease him about that fight?"
Yeah.
Oh no. I tease him about everything, but I don't tease him about that fight. Okay. He's actually a really good sport about it. He loves Ali.
Right.
But you know, everybody's a competitor. But so you don't tease about it. But to be honest, he's actually in hindsight happy that he lost that fight.
Okay. So let's talk about your career. But before I go on about your career again, how does it impact you that your father's George Foreman?
You know, it's interesting the way it impacted me, because I got into boxing as a hobby, and I just wanted to have one fight and wanted to lose some weight, trim my waistline. And my dad, you know, introduced this idea of being a professional boxer to motivate me to train hard. And it kind of got out of hand. We ended up fighting 16 times. But so for me, it was just a hobby. I'm out here having fun, just like any other boy that goes into the boxing gym. And yet, when I'd hop into the ring, everybody's looking for one of the hardest punchers in history, Hall of Famer, gold medalist. They're looking for a chip off that old block, which is fine, but that's not what I was trying to do. I just wanted to have a little fun and learn how to learn the sport. But there's no better way to learn the sport to get out there in front of a crowd and go for it, you know? So it was twofold. Sometimes it took the fun out of it, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm glad for the experience I got.
So basically, you've boxed as a pro, but you don't have any ambitions to go any further? Or am I misunderstanding that?
No, you know, I didn't have an amateur career at all, so I'm kind of like Brian Jennings in that respect.
Right.
But no, I boxed as a pro for nothing. I did that for about 3-4 years straight. Had 16 fights, and I would love to fight again. Only problem is I keep opening these businesses. I just opened the gym, just signed a lease, or about to sign a lease, hopefully, God willing, for another gym. And that's keeping me really busy. And we have about 1,400 members at my current gym. Right. And it's hard to train. And my dad taught me respect the sport. If you're going to get in that ring, you better be in shape. And I refuse to do it if I'm not going to be in shape. But if I can get eight weeks of a training camp where I can train on time every day and get my sleep, I will absolutely fight again. And it's just a matter of maybe another 6 months for me to get my personnel in order, hire a few more people, and I can probably focus on training, because I definitely want to box. But I will not do it without being in shape. Absolutely not.
Absolutely. I'm sure your dad could tell you of many stories of fighters who've either disrespected the sport or fighters who did not come in shape and got knocked out.
Yeah. And, the money's so great, sometimes you got to do it. But remember, I got into the sport as a hobby, and it's a labor of love. So not for the money. It's for doing it correctly. So that's my attitude about it. But I wish I could fight again. I hope one of these boys get the title so I can get in there and get a shot at it.
So let's talk a little bit more about, I know a bit about you, and I did some research, but I'm sure at some point, either 1 or 2 years ago, it might still be happening now, so please forgive me, but were you involved in doing some form of promoting?
No. So it's confusing because there's so many Georges.
Right.
So, I managed my dad for the better part of 7 years, and I did everything for him. I even folded his clothes,
right.
negotiate deals, travel, TV shows, books, etc. And that was who I was, and that was my whole life's work. And then it transitioned to when I started boxing. After about a year and a half, he let me focus on nothing but boxing and became my manager. And then when I took my departure from boxing, my brothers, George Jr., who also was in the business with us, actually took a lead role and started looking into promoting boxing alongside Bob Arum to really learn the ropes. Between my father and Bob, they've really brought him along. And so my brother, George Foreman Jr., best friend, he's really taking the reins on learning the boxing promotion side of the business. So it's really fun. I got to be a boxer. He's learning the promotions, and hopefully my younger brothers will come along and do the same as well. In terms of promoting, I don't want them to get hit.
Oh, you can't blame me now for getting it wrong because everyone's called George. So
no, everybody confuses us. If you Google us, you never know who's going to pop out. But George Jr., he's the kind of a brainiac behind the scenes.
Right.
And he's the guy that's really into the boxing promoter. Real smart, sharp guy, deal maker too.
Okay, excellent. It says you're a TV personality as well.
What'd you say?
It says that you're a TV on your Wikipedia.
Yeah.
It says that you're a TV personality.
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
Got a chance to star in a few reality shows.
Right.
A couple. That was before I started boxing, though.
Okay, what shows were they? Because as you can tell, I'm a Brit. I don't know much about a lot of the American stuff and the TV stuff. I know about boxing a bit.
Oh.
But yeah.
Yeah, I was on a show called Filthy Rich Cattle Drive, and the premise was take a bunch of rich kids, put them on a cattle drive on the ranch for 3 weeks, and see what happens, the laughs. And we actually had a young gentleman from the UK, and I'm forgetting his name right now, that was from one of the cousins of the royal family. He was on the show with me, but it was on E! Network.
Hold on. Could that have been Callum Best?
What was that?
Callum Best, maybe? He's always in shows like that.
No, that wasn't his name. It'll come to me as we're talking. But also Kourtney Kardashian was on the show as well.
Okay, right, okay.
I'm sure that's a name you'll remember.
Yeah, I remember that name. Can't quite forget it.
Yeah.
Wow. So what was it like being beside someone like that? But then mind you, because of your dad, I guess, and the name, people like that would be like a $2 bob because you've seen them all the time.
You say that one more time? I'm sorry.
Because you see people like that, because of your dad and the way you'd move, you'd see people like the Kardashians all the time. Not all the time, but it would be regular for you. It wouldn't be a big thing.
You would think that, but we didn't grow up like that. We grew up in the gym, in the church, or at school.
Right.
And if we weren't in one of those three places, we were traveling with my dad for work.
Right.
We grew up pretty strict and not hanging out with celebrities and stars. That's not the life we had.
Right.
We grew up on the ranch. That's why it was actually pretty easy for me being on that show. That's kind of how my dad raised us.
Okay. Oh, that makes enough sense then.
So that was actually new. That was new for us. I didn't know people could be so spoiled in a good way. I wish I was spoiled like that.
So let's talk about. There's so many things to ask you about. Let's talk about obviously the big fight that is this weekend. We can't not talk about that. Sure. How do you see, from what you've seen so far from Deontay Wilder as the fighter that everyone believes is the next best thing in America, apart from Bryant Jennings? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, Deontay is a great talent, and the thing about Deontay is that he's he's got all the things you want in a boxer. He's freakishly athletic. He's tall. He's long. They've taken their time with him to build him up slowly, which is the right thing to do with a guy like that coming out of the Olympics. And he's a puncher. He likes to land big-time punches. The only question about Deontay is, can he handle in front of the big crowd a big-time fight? I think he can. I think, what you have in Deontay is a guy like George Foreman when he fought Frazier. Everybody said George has fought nothing but bums, and now it's finally time to give George a real test. And my dad had been 10 rounds, 6 rounds, 8 rounds with guys you've never heard of, but he dispatched Joe Frazier in 2 rounds. Same thing he did with all those quote-unquote bums he did with Joe Frazier. So sometimes you just never know. The kink in Deontay's armor could potentially be backing away. And no one really pushes him back on his heels. And they run away from him. They run. They think that they're out of range, that they can't get hit. And then he throws the punch, and somehow it's just an inch closer than they thought it was. And they get hit with a punch they didn't think that was going to land. Getting hit with a punch you don't see, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. And then they drop and they get wobbled because they're running. And there's been a few instances we see guys that they don't know any better. They're young and green, and they go out there and just sock them and go right at them. And they drop them once or twice, I think. But he gets back up, fights hard, and finishes the fight. This guy with the best of them. Long arms, athletic. Even though he doesn't have big legs, he can punch. So my point is, I would gamble that Deontay has the goods. And the only way someone can really challenge this guy is to say, you know what, I'm going to take a couple licks and I'm going to push him back for 10 rounds on his heels and keep him on his heels, because that's the only thing that hasn't been done to him on a consistent basis under the bright lights.
Now, the one fight that everybody, well, not everybody, a lot of the Americans know about, but has been pulled off of YouTube is the fight against Harold Skonias. Or Skonias? Yep. Yes. And a lot of people don't see that fight, but that's the fight that's the key in all of this, really, is it not?
Yeah.
What did you get to see that fight?
Yeah, I saw that fight and another. He's got this knockdown on his record from that fight, but he actually got dropped again. I could be mistaken, it could be the same fight, but I'm pretty sure he got dropped again. And all it was is not paying attention. The guy gets out there, he's not taking him serious, and the guy caught him with a shot. It could happen to anybody.
There was that one.
It happened.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There was that one guy who was really overweight, and I saw he dropped Deontay. That guy I'm talking about.
You said that's the guy you're talking about?
That was one of the guys that dropped Deontay. But you could see Deontay was clowning around.
Exactly. But he got him.
Yeah.
One way or the other. He licked him. I've been dropped before. I know how it happened. But he got back up. Deontay got back up.
The Harold Skonias fight is Skonias. That's the fight that he got dropped and he was down for the count of 9. The reports are that it was a slow count, and was lucky to beat the count, basically. Yep. And those are reports from the Americans, not me. All I'm trying to do is find out what's going on, because some people are betting hard-earned money on this fight. So they want to kind of find out what's going on. And the media really have not, I'm surprised, not covered the fight the way we would expect them to.
Yeah, and I think from what you're asking is, what do I think based on the fact that he's been knocked down and handily, it's for real?
Yeah.
I still think, man, this is the guy who's been in camp with Klitschko. He's been in camp with the guy from the UK, the good counterpuncher, David Haye.
David Haye.
He's been in deep, not under the bright lights. The thing is, he will get up. He will get up. And I think once a guy has that on the stage, you don't have to worry about him getting knocked down. You have to worry about him getting outwitted. And I think that's what Bermain Stavern brings to the table. He doesn't bring what the other guy brought, flash and power and all that. This guy brings strategy, and the fact that he's a 36-year-old man, 35-year-old man who thinks like an adult. That's what everybody should be thinking about when they bet their dollars. Strategy, in my opinion.
So what does Stavern bring to the table? Now, we talked about Deontay Wilder, his speed, his power, his athleticism. All those things are key to see. What does Bermain bring to the table?
Bermain brings to the table a gift and a curse. Number one, he's a gym rat. Not terribly what do you call, doesn't work that hard, but he is a gym rat. He's always in the gym, and he hangs around a place full of counterpunches, the Mayweather gym. So just like when he fought the big Mexican boy, he'll back up against the ropes, let you think you're winning the fight, back up, take a few shots, get your confidence up, and wham, you're on the floor. And he's got a strong left hook, and he actually has power in both hands, but that left hook is so fast, puts you to sleep, makes you forget it even exists, and boom, you're on the ground. And you're not getting back up if you happen to be throwing a punch at the same time. So this is what Bermain has, and there's not a lot of heavyweights that, number one, have that ability. Number two, you don't see it in gyms. You can't get sparring partners with that type of speed and people that really think like counterpunchers. So this is what he has, this ability to counterpunch. Power, and like I said, he's a grown man. The curse, I think, and, this fight is going to be about, honestly, they both have power. Who lands the shot first? Who lands the big shot first or second? And if Bermain is backing up and trying to stay out of range, and maybe he likes to put his hands up and feel his man's power, feel his man's punching power, if he does that, I think that Deontay is going to lick him once or twice, and he may not be able to recover from it because Deontay is a good finisher. But if he comes out, I think, and fights him, that's his curse that could work against him in this fight. If he comes out and fights him the first few rounds, keeps him on his heels, when Deontay slows down, gets a little winded, starts second-guessing himself, then he can back up and start counterpunching, maybe around round 4 or 5. But if he starts that counterpunching stuff and backing away in the first round, round 1 or round 2, it's not going to work against a guy like Deontay. It's just not. The physics don't allow that, in my opinion.
I said to Harold the Shadow Knight earlier, it was Lennox Lewis's former his cornerman, and I said to Harold, look, I see Hagler Hearns here in the sense that you've got the tall Tommy Hearns with the punch power and the ranginess, and you had Hagler shorter, had to get inside, and it just was a war because Hagler was trying to impose his will on Hearns, and first round, Hagler knew he had to get onto Hearns' chest, which brought the chemistry of the fight. Both guys don't like one another, so, and it's genuine there. I know that's genuine. So there's no hype about it because I was interviewing Bermain before he was fighting Areola for the second fight, and out of nowhere he just started saying that he said Wilder was nothing. He called Wilder nothing. I thought, oh, okay. Well, where's all this come from?
I don't think that's the attitude that he should have, but it is what it is. And I would say about the Hagler Hearns comparison, you definitely have something very close to Hearns and Deontay.
Yes.
Especially a younger Hearns.
Yes.
But what you don't have is, in my opinion, you don't have a Hagler because he has this, he's stocky. He's not as short as Hagler relative to the people he's fighting.
Yep.
But he is, Hagler was actually around the same height. But Hagler had this insane training regime that I'm sure you know all about.
Yes.
And I think this is what Bermain doesn't have.
Right.
That insane training regime would actually allow him to keep Deontay moving back the whole fight for 10, 12 rounds. That would allow him to do that. Hagler could do that for 12 rounds and pressure, and then overtake you. Bermain doesn't have that training ethic that I've seen. I've hung out in the gym with him and everything. He doesn't have that training ethic, but if he turns it on for this fight, then you might see what you're talking about. You might see a Hagler Hearns, and it's all about what he's doing in training camp. So if you're betting on this fight, I'd hang around the gym.
Yep. Now that whole thing you talked about, Bermain's fitness and everything, does he really need that fitness if he's got the power to knock Deontay out early? Because he's been dropped by guys of a lower level. You'd think that someone like Bermain, who's dropped Areola that Klitschko couldn't drop in 2 fights, and in 2 fights he's dropped him twice, stopped him in the second fight. If one of those bombs are to land on Wilder, and he's been dropped by lower opposition, it doesn't look good, does it?
Yeah, I think he does need it because these are 2 different type of fighters, and one, like I said, Deontay's going to get back up, so he needs to be in extreme condition because you blow your load in round 1 and he gets back up. You blow your load in round 2, he gets back up. If that happens to happen, then you're stuck. If you're not in condition, you're going to be gassed and you're going to get beat up. And
Well,
so you still got to train like an extreme athlete, but train to go in there and get the knockouts. I definitely think he does. Now, if he could fight, if Deontay was more a guy that backs up and waits and waits and waits and backs away, and he could fight him doing the same thing and lean back and wait, he actually would need to be in great shape. But I do not see how he's going to win this fight counterpunching.
okay.
Counterpunching is about the only way he can conserve his energy, which is the way he fought Areola, and which is the way he pretty much fights everybody. He waits all night.
That's very true.
You got to be in shape to be a puncher, in my opinion.
I spoke to Jason Gavin and then Owen Beck.
Yeah, Jason fought him. Yeah, he gave him a good fight.
Jason fought him and Owen Beck fought him as well.
Yep.
Owen Beck sparred with Bermain as well. He seems to have a bit of a sour taste in his mouth, Owen Beck, because he feels that Deontay disrespected him.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and he basically said, well, Deontay doesn't like body shots, and when I fought him, I only had 2 weeks' notice, and he didn't have that much punch power because I went 4 rounds with him and I retired on my stool. If it was really a punch, he would have knocked me out.
Are you talking about Jason or Owen?
I'm talking about Owen Beck there.
Oh yeah. I didn't know he had been disrespectful to him like that. I had no idea.
Yeah, so that ensued because he said he basically left a post on Facebook today about that Deontay's doesn't like body shots. So I thought, hold on, for you to say that, let me get an interview. So I chased him down, got an interview with him, and it unraveled this stuff and how Deontay was talking behind his back and all the rest of it, and he kind of felt kind of disrespected by him. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think disrespect is disrespect. You never like that, but nobody likes body shots, especially from Owen Beck. I wouldn't like one either. Especially if I'm tall. No, thank you. If a man likes body shots, there's something wrong with them. But I think the disrespect is never necessary.
Owen Beck says he's making a comeback, so it'll be interesting.
He should. He's got the talent. He just needs to have the people behind him.
He said he's got his own gym now. He's going to get himself in shape. So, and as for Jason Gavin, who obviously is another sparring partner, he said that Deontay's style wasn't so effective against taller guys, but I thought he stood a good chance against Bermain Stavern. Yet when I tried to press him about sparring sessions and tried to press him about certain things, Gavin seemed to not answer the question and try to stay politically correct. So no matter how much I pressed him, I couldn't get the answers I wanted to say. You know what?
Yeah, Jason was a really interesting fight. If you watch that and you know exactly what Bermain needs to do, go back and watch that fight. And what you'll see is Jason Gavin, anytime he presses him back, he gets an opportunity. And a couple of times he was able to land a good right hand on Deontay, which is pretty much unacceptable against a tall guy. But tall like that, no one should hit you with right hand.
Yep.
But Gavin was able to get in there and land a few. He just didn't have the conditioning to keep it up and follow up.
Exactly.
He'd come forward with 2 steps, land the shot, and then back up. If he was able to keep that up, he could have won that fight, but it's conditioning that he needed.
Jason,
If he had a second shot at it, I bet he would approach it differently.
I mean, Owen Beck says that Wilder doesn't have a jab. He said go ahead.
He does though. I mean, he doesn't have a jab, but he's so tall and long, and he's fast that long jab is going to be way more effective than a guy that's 6'2" who has a jab. That long jab, you can't get into. He does have a jab.
Mm-hmm.
He does. He doesn't have a Klitschko jab. He doesn't have a Sonny Liston jab, a Foreman jab. But based on what's out there right now, with that long height and athletic ability, he's got a jab that can give anybody a problem.
Okay, so that's good. Let's look at more Stavern's weaknesses. People say slow feet, being unable to get in quick enough to close the range down.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think Stavern's weakness, number one, he's got a good chin. Keeps his chin down. His weakness is his conditioning, and his will to work hard and will to train hard. That's his only weakness, and that's a weakness that he can fix. So I don't, that's his Achilles heel, and that's up to him. It's not a weakness that he's stuck with. If he's willing to, devote himself, work as hard as he can, punish himself during training camp, and punish himself for the first 6 rounds of that fight, and keep Deontay moving back, I don't think it's a hole in his game anymore. But if he's lazy, he's gonna have a problem.
Wow. Wow. What's your assessment of Brian?
That's my take on it. I've watched all his fights.
So if you're a okay, I can't say if you're a betting man because you're a God-fearing man, so we can't ask you if you're a betting man. But what we'll ask you is, if you were managing one of these fighters, who would you take and manage, based on their ability to win the fight?
That's tough because managing means you're going to be stuck with them for a long time.
Yeah, but if they're heavyweight champion of the world and they're going to win, then why do you complain?
I take Deontay. I would manage Deontay, and I would actually pull him out of this fight if I was managing him, because he can win this fight. But I think there's a few things that he needs before he goes into a fight of this magnitude. Because what's going to happen is once he gets that belt, he can't take tune-ups anymore. He can't take the type of fights he needs to develop himself anymore. So a good manager would take him and say, "Here's some money. We're going to take a year off, and we're going to fight a few more different type of fights and train a different way." I would take Deontay. He's younger. He's taller. He's got the grit, and he's got the speed. And I would take him for the long call. Remain for 1 or 2 fights. He's definitely the dude. But the long call, give me Deontay any day. I need that height.
Okay, Deontay. And the thing is as well that a lot of fans are critical because Bermain is not speaking out the way he should do. Although I can't criticize him because every interviews I've done with him, I've done 20-minute interviews and 30-minute interviews. I've done 4 interviews now with Bermain Stavern, and he's always been quite open and quite comical actually. But I think
he's not talking now this time. He's not being open, very open.
Well, to me, he talks quite openly, but I think media. I think a lot of the journalists, and this is not disrespect, but it's not disrespect, but I think they don't work hard enough. I think they just ask the same damn questions over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right. I've seen him in the press conferences. He's wary of the media. I think he's a little nervous about him. He probably doesn't trust them very much. That may be part of it.
Yeah, of course.
That can happen.
And of course, they look at him like they did Lennox Lewis before Lewis fought Grant. Lewis was the British Canadian. Now you've got a Haitian Canadian in this fight. And of course, back then,
never thought about it that way. Yeah.
Back then, Michael Grant was the up and coming rising heavyweight. In fact, Grant had fought better opposition up to this point for the world title shot than Wilder has. And then now Wilder's the up and coming next best thing for America. So there are lots of similarities there. Lewis was an older, more mature champion. Same with Stavern. And again, the American media, despite Lewis being undisputed champion, beating Holyfield, they didn't really still recognize him. They said because Tyson was the next thing they were mentioning. So until you fight Tyson, then we'll take you seriously. And with Bermain, it's like, well, okay, you beat Areola. He was one of ours. You beat Areola twice, fine, but still, we got another guy for you now, which is Deontay. You haven't fought him yet. So there seems to be a lot. There's parallels and similarities there.
Yeah.
So
no. I mean, there definitely are. I think what he needs to do is win the imaginations, the hearts of America, and you do that by being the underdog. And he gets out there and wins this fight. Whoever keeps each other on the heels, whoever pushes forward is going to win this fight. And if it's Bermain, he needs to wrap himself in the American flag, go across the water, and take the belt from Vladimir Klitschko, or bring him back over here and fight him the same way he fights Deontay. And just grit down. You're probably going to get cut. You're going to get tossed around a little bit. And just say, I'm going to devote myself to saying, I'm willing to die in this ring tonight. Devote himself like that. Bring that crown back to America, which is where he lives. He is an American.
Absolutely.
And say, this is how America fights. We're the underdog and we won. After however many years Vladimir's had this belt, I'm the guy that went and got it. I'm an immigrant, just like half this population, descended from an immigrant. I went and got that belt. And America will rally around this guy like you wouldn't believe, in my opinion. And Absolutely. He does have something to say. He's got a story, So.
Absolutely. What do you think about Bryant Jennings, who is touted to fight Klitschko? I don't think that fight's going to happen. I suspect it's going to be Briggs that will fight Klitschko because of his connection with Jay-Z.
Yeah, I think Bryant Jennings is I wish you could take all 3 of these fighters and put them into one. Bryant Jennings has got the character. Deontay showed me he worries me character-wise because what he did to that boy. He beat up some kid that came into his gym who was harassing him or whatever.
Yep.
That's a character flaw. Bermain, his training ethic, which I hope he corrects. That's a character flaw. This guy Jennings keeps a job. He has a full-time job, pipe fitting or something like that. That guy, and he takes care of his family. At least we can see these things. Maybe the other guys do.
Yeah.
This guy's got character.
Yes.
And didn't have an amateur career. Trains his behind off. Comes from Philly. Great fighters. You know, I like him, man. He's the type of guy I want to see win.
Yeah.
Does he have the natural abilities that Bermain has? Nope. Not in the speed category. Not in the reflex category. Does he have the height and God-given, you know, gifts in terms of length and you know, athletic ability that the other kid has? Deontay? Nope. But he has the character. And I think the character, that's when you take a guy like this and you start putting him in the category of a guy like a Hearns. I mean, not a Hearns, but a Hagler, who's going to give you everything he's got in training camp and in the fight. And I think this is what he has. That's his crowning, you know, skill or asset, his character.
Absolutely.
I cheer for him, man. I really do.
I've got a lot of time for Bright Jennings. Talked to him a lot. And I've got a lot of time for Bright Jennings. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's an underestimated fighter. And with Fred Jenkins in his corner, anything's possible.
Very underestimated, and he doesn't really have, like, a lot of the things that you need to compete in the heavyweight division. He's not, in many ways, kind of small in a way. It's kind of weird, but I think his heart is so big that you just can't count him out, you know? And he's the type of guy you root for. You just root for him.
Absolutely. Is there anybody across the pond, i.e. the UK, that you've got your eyes on?
Yeah, man, that big tall boy, Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
He can box.
Okay.
You don't see the big guys being able to box that well. He's got more talent in his pinky than most of the guys over here.
Right.
And I think he's developing some bad habits because of his height and what he can get away with.
Yeah.
Switching and all that, you know.
Yeah.
But this guy is he boxes. He's got boxing appreciation. Understands the sport. I don't know much about his personality, but I like to watch him fight, man. I really do, because he likes to do some of the things that the little guys do, and he's about 6'10" or whatever he is.
Yep.
So that's a guy I like to follow. There's another guy, I can't remember his name. He's shorter.
Anthony Joshua?
What is that?
Joshua. AJ. Anthony Joshua.
That may be his name, but I'm not sure. But the other guy is David Hay, which is funny because when someone can pull him out of his cave, he can make for a very exciting fight. I'd like to see him fight once or twice, you know? Once or twice, 2 more times maybe.
Who do you want to see him fight against?
What was that? Oh, I'd love to see him fight whoever wins the title, whoever wins his fight. I'd love to see him fight Deontay because they've been in the gym, and that would be exciting, and they both have a big mouth. And I would love to see him fight Bermain because I think Bermain can knock him out. It would make for a boring fight, but Bermain has the cat-like reflexes that can get the better of a guy like him.
Wow. But you want to see David Hay come back, but you want to see him get knocked up by Bermain Stabber. That's the way he does it.
I think Bermain can do it. I think he might, but I think the Hay can beat. I think he'll beat the other boy. I think he'll beat Deontay because of their time in the gym. And they say he dropped him in the gym a few times. Right. And that's called the psychological advantage. I think he beats Deontay, but I think Stavern can get with him. It's just a matchup that I think Stavern can win.
Okay, let me give you one. David Hay versus Tyson Fury. Who wins?
Tyson Fury.
Why?
That height's just too much. And there's 2 guys that like to, I call it crouching tiger, hidden dragon.
Yeah.
One guy's scared of the other guy, and the other guy's happy of it. And they'll both lean back and sit on their back foot all night. And the reach of Tyson Fury, I think, is going to make the judges give it to him. Because David, by the time he lunges in, he's not going to be able to land anything. That height, the height. With Bermain, you know, the height is almost the same, and some punching can actually happen. But that height is too great with Tyson. Tyson will win that fight. Only because, you know, the other boy with the braids, he's kind of wary, you know. He leans back and waits. come in with 1 or 2 punches, and you can't do that with a tall guy. You can't win like that.
Okay, and
Not that tall.
not that tall. No. What about the main this fight between Shannon Briggs and Vladimir Klitschko?
I don't want to see that fight. I think if it happened, I'd watch it.
Of course, we don't watch it.
Of all the things that have gone on. What's that?
Well, of course we don't watch it, but we all know it's going to be a horror show.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not even saying I think it's a different matchup. 2 different men, even though they're brothers. I'm not even saying I don't think the boy could give Vladimir a good run. I'm just saying I don't want to see him get hit not once. After what Vitali did to him, he's going to be a guy slurring his speech in his 60s, and I don't want to see any more of that punishment. He just needs to take some time to start looking after himself. Someone got killed that night, in my opinion.
Yeah, there were some serious blows. I mean, I told him, when we did the interview, man, you got messed up. Basically, you got messed, and he admitted it.
And he's got a great chin and a big heart, and sometimes that can work against you. But he needs to just retire. Good thing he's working out and all that, but that money's not that important.
So let's go, champ. You're not part of that fan club.
No, I mean anybody who wants to come back, I'm happy, to make a comeback. But at some point, man, your health, you got to play with your grandkids, your family, be able to feed yourself when you're 60, 70 years old. I don't think you need to mess with that anymore. He got beat up too much.
What about Bryant Jennings versus Klitschko? How does that fight go if it is ever made?
Right now, Klitschko, I don't think that's a good fight for Bryant right now, because I don't think he'll win it. I think, if he cleans out everybody in the rest of the division and then approaches Klitschko, I think he'll have a better chance. Right. I've just never seen him excel. I haven't seen him excel against a tall guy who's so masterful like Klitschko is.
Right.
Defensively responsible, knows his way around the ring, great jab. He hasn't fought anybody with a perfect jab like Klitschko has, so I don't think it's a great fight for him. But, if anybody has the heart, it's Bryant, so why not?
Absolutely. The fight that I believe is actually going to happen, and a lot of people are laughing at me, is Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. I think everybody's going to hate me for this, but I think Floyd's going to knock him out. You know what? And I don't have any detailed, list of why I think that's going to happen. Yeah. That's just my gut. As a funny boxing fan, I think Floyd's going to knock him out. 3 years ago, when the fight should have happened, I think Floyd was at big-time risk of getting beat by this guy. The fight could get stolen from him because he has Freddie Roach, who knows exactly how to steal a fight from Floyd on the scorecard. Freddie knows exactly how to do it. But he can't have a guy that's scared to get hit to accomplish this. He's got to have a guy like De La Hoya was for the first 10 rounds of their fight. He's got to have a guy like the guy from Puerto Rico. You know what I'm talking about. I can't remember.
Margarito.
Right now. No, the other guy. The guy, Cotto, who fought Mayweather.
Yep.
Got to have a Cotto. He's got to have someone that's going to put their head right out there and go for it and not worry about getting hit. Pacquiao is not that guy anymore. He was. He's not that guy anymore, and so he doesn't have what it takes to steal the fight from Mayweather, which means, every fight, tattoo him with punches and keep him on the ropes as long as he can. He doesn't have it in him. Mayweather would drop 1 or 2 counter punches on him, and I think Pacquiao is going to back up and be defensively responsible, and that's Floyd's game. And Floyd will beat him at it every night. He may even knock him out.
Wow.
Because now, and if you just go back to matchups, who's given Floyd the most problems? I'm sorry, who's given Manny Pacquiao the most problems of his whole career?
Guys who are counter punches and got good straight right hands.
Yeah, and we know one in particular from Mexico, right?
Yep.
And Floyd is bigger, stronger, faster, and in terms of thinking ability,
better
he's
boxer.
Right there with Marquez. You could argue that he's better, but he's right there with Marquez. So I think he can do all the things Marquez did. He knows exactly what Marquez did, and he's bigger, stronger, faster. Pacquiao should have taken this fight 3 years ago.
Okay. Cotto, Canelo.
Cotto and who?
Canelo.
Cotto.
You really think Cotto beats Canelo?
Yeah. Definitely. There's 2 punchers, and Cotto's got more experience, and he's got the better corner. Cotto. I mean, that's an easy one for me. Canelo's a great fighter, but they need to stop putting him in deep with these veterans. Canelo, in my opinion, hasn't been completely sold over to what his style is.
Right.
Canelo's a puncher. He's a puncher. Classic boxing skills, and he's a puncher, but he wants to be a puncher. And once he tries to counterpunch with an experienced guy, they start to slowly eat him up. And he sits there and tries to play his cat and mouse game with an experienced guy. They're going to eat him up.
Okay.
If he'll commit to being a puncher, then he actually will beat Floyd. If he commits to being a puncher, he beats Cotto. But he's not committed to it. He wants to be slick. He wants to move around. And he's not ready to fight a guy an old dog like Cotto, who's been around the block 3 or 4 times. That's just my opinion.
Wow.
I think Cotto beats him based on experience and based on the fact that he's an equally gifted puncher, as he is. As soon as Canelo starts counterpunching and boxing, Cotto will eat him up.
But what do you think about
I don't see a knockout, though.
But what do you think about the fact that Cotto isn't actually a middleweight and was very fortunate to have met a completely shot Martinez that night, who isn't a big middleweight himself?
I agree, but you know what? I think Canelo's not a big guy. He's not. I've seen him in person. I mean, he's big, but there's not that much difference in Cotto fighting at the weight and Canelo fighting at their weight. So they're about the same size. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah. They're about the same size in my opinion. So that won't play much into it. And Cotto's still with Freddie, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, Freddie. So he's got the better corner, more experience, punching power, left hook to the body. He's good.
Okay. Keith, one-time Thurman.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts?
I don't want to hear from Keith for another 2 years. The reason I say that is because special talent. He's a special talent, and they're going to rush him because, they have nobody, HBO and all these networks, which I love, they have nobody else to put on TV. And they throw the money at their managers, and they put him in the ring. And Keith Thurman should beat around the bush. He needs to fight in every major city, every nook and cranny for another 15 fights. And then when they bring him to the championship level, then you have another Floyd for about 8 years, 10 years. He's got that type of talent. I think they're going to rush him, and I'm kind of upset about it because guys like that don't come along that often.
Wow. You think they're going to rush Keith Thurman? Yeah,
they're going to rush him. They're going to put him in deep. They need to wait for, the Mayweathers of the world, the Bernard Hopkins of the world, the Marquezes, all these guys. Let them retire before you try to let him ascend to the throne so that he can have a great reign because he doesn't need to be dealing with these experienced guys, in my opinion. It's not fair to him. So because a lot of people are criticising the opposition of that Keith's been facing. I mean, I said to Keith, look, I mean, I talk to him quite often. I said, look, Keith, you're fighting some opponents here which are fine, but you're talking about you want to fight the best in the world and you knockouts for life and blah, 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 blah. If you go back now after fighting Bundu and fight some other guy that's not in the top 10, people are going to be disinterested with you. You've got to fight someone. And Maidana is the guy that people are talking about, him fighting next. But Maidana doesn't seem to want to fight Keith. And probably Keith says that Maidana won't fight him. Maidana's got a few $1 million. I wouldn't want to fight anybody if I were him either. But he's got more than a few. What I would say about Keith, though, is of course he wants to fight the best in the world as he can, and he can make the money fighting these guys. But he should be the king of the undercards for the next 2, 3, maybe next 18 months. Yep. King of the undercard. Fight hard fights on the undercard. Fight soft fights on the undercard. The hard fight, not too many saw, but he was in front of the crowd and he gets the experience. The easy fights, there's people to see it, but not so many that people say he's just fighting bums. He needs to fight on these undercards, sometimes on TV, sometimes not. Fight hard twice a year. Fight soft 2, 3 times a year to stay busy. But he's got a little bit more prepping, in my opinion, to be the champion that he's capable of being. He's capable. He's Floyd level in terms of gifts.
So what are the weaknesses you're seeing in Keith Thurman at the moment?
Just too much belief in his power.
Right, loading up too much.
That's it. Too much, and what happens to a guy like that, he gets out there and one day it's not working one bit. And he's like, well, what do I do now? And whatever that what do I do now is, he needs more confidence in that area. His boxing ability, his ability to sit back for a round, his ability to work on the body when nobody's paying attention because he knows it's going to help him in the 11th and 12th round. He needs a little more, he needs to have confidence in the rest of his game. He's too confident in his power. And once he gets over that, I think he'll be ready. Floyd has no confidence in his power, which makes him a phenomenal boxer, in my opinion.
What's your thoughts on Kell Brook?
Kell Brook, I'm not familiar with this fighter.
He fought Sean Porter and beat Sean Porter for the IBF title.
Sean who?
Porter. Porter was the guy that knocked out Malignaggi. Knocked him through the ropes.
He beat Sean Porter? I didn't know this.
Yeah, he did.
Porter. I know exactly who Sean Porter is. Somebody beat Sean Porter?
Yeah. Kell Brook beat Sean Porter on points.
I've been too busy. I didn't catch that one, man. Golly. Porter's one of my favorite fighters.
Oh,
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's not going to be very impressed with you now, is he?
No. I'm embarrassed. I've been watching Pro, but I got to go look this guy up, man. If he beat Sean Porter, that means he's a tough man.
He did. It was a close fight. Very close fight.
Oh, okay. Was it a decision?
Decision.
I've got to watch that. That sounds like somebody beat him he beat him in strategy, it sounds like.
Okay. Amir Khan. He's talking about giving Floyd Mayweather ultimatum, which I think is a damn cheap, but there you go.
Amir Khan, Amir Khan, I like him. I think he's bounced around on and off with trainers and taking too much time, and it's kind of messed up his career a little bit.
Yep.
But I think he's the type of guy that they need to take and just manage him well. I don't think he needs to fight Floyd right now. I think he needs to go back to the drawing board and slowly build himself back up the way he did when he first started his career.
Mm-hmm.
But I doubt he has the patience for that. I like him a lot, but I just think he's been mismanaged. That's my opinion.
Okay, now we're going to talk about two superstars.
And I don't know how this new marriage with his trainer is going to go. We'll see. Once I see how that works out, maybe two or three fights in, maybe 3 fights.
Yep.
And I could tell you, because Virgil Hunter, that's his name. He's a brainiac.
Yep.
In terms of boxing.
Yep.
But he has to have the right fighter that he meshes with.
Well, it seems that the relationship seems to be working well because Andre Ward's not been around. Now that Andre Ward's going to come back and he's signed with Jay-Z, it'll be interesting to see how that relationship is.
Yeah, it will be. We'll see. Because Hunter's one of the guys I would love to have as my trainer if I ever could. So he's got it, but I think they just need to start over. Because the thing with a fighter and a trainer is the trainer has to go through the tune-up process too with the fighter. You have to learn how to communicate with them.
Yep.
So he's got to have no shame in his game and start from scratch. Just like he just came out of the Olympics, have about 6 fights with his trainer, get it tight, and then go back out to the world. And like I said, I don't think they'll do that. But we'll see. I could be wrong about that one.
What about Andre Ward? He's come back, signed with Jay-Z. A lot of people expecting big things of him.
He's Einstein. Andre Ward does everything Floyd can do, and he does the things that we wish Floyd could do. I mean, I give all credit to Floyd. He's one of my favorites as well. And I don't think he should do the things people want him to do. But Andre does them. I'm really happy about, the fact that he's working with some guys that can actually get the word out to the whole world that he is this type of special talent.
Mm-hmm.
And that he has devoted himself, that he hasn't been beat since he was 12 in anything, in any fight. A lot of people don't know this and appreciate him, and he can start getting the money he deserves. He's the guy that I give all the fighters I train. I say, go watch Andre Ward. Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather, and then, Ray Robinson. Go watch those guys.
Wow.
If you can do everything they do, then you've done something.
Ray Robinson is my favourite fighter of all time, full stop.
Yeah, me too.
Let's see.
And this guy, Andre Ward, is like a geek in terms of his appreciation for the sport and how hard he works.
Yes.
He's I like him a lot, man. He's cool.
2 more fighters to mention. GGG and Kovalev. Let's start with GGG.
Mm-hmm. GGG, that's a punch if we've ever seen one, man. That guy can punch from his hip, doesn't even have to turn his foot, and knock you out. And he hits you on places that nobody else hits you. He hits you between your ear and your forehead, somewhere in there, on top of your head. I don't have a good breakdown on him because I just watched about 4 of his fights. But if I had a fighter, I'd steer him clear away from Triple G. I can tell you that much.
Awesome.
And he needs to make sure that he does, in my opinion, for his own good, speak as much English as possible, so that people start to really learn to love him and just become an American.
Oscar De La Hoya said, well, great old Oscar again with his blueprints. He said he's had the blueprint to beat Floyd Mayweather. And then he had the blueprint, and every other fighter that's fought him has got beat by Floyd. He said that the blueprint to beat GGG is to put him on the back foot and make him fight backwards. But then he added, for you to put him on the back foot, you have to be able to take some punches first.
Yeah. There's no blueprint to beating that guy, man. That guy can punch. Everything works. And when you get hit with a punch that hard, you start going into protection mode. And if you didn't train in protection mode, you're going to have a problem, man. That guy can punch. That's like, how do you beat George Foreman back in 1972?
Yep.
Don't fight him. Don't sign the contract. I'm telling you, man, this Triple G, that guy can punch. He's like a young Tyson. I don't have much to say about that. Stay away from that guy.
What about Kovalev?
And the reason, by the way, Triple G is nobody has power like him at that weight in the gym, and nobody throws punches from that angle in the gym. Kind of like Pacquiao when he was in his prime.
Yeah.
Kovalev is he's a smart fighter and he's got power. I look for him to be have a quiet reign. I don't think he's going to be very popular in the United States and therefore the world. But I think he'll be one of those guys, champ for 5, 6, 7 years, and nobody really knows about him, which is great because he'll make a few bucks and have a legacy. But a quiet reign, that's what I see from him.
I see him beating Jean Pascal, to be honest.
Once again, quiet reign. He'll beat Jean Pascal, and boxing heads like me and you who know boxing, and the fans are going to have a lot of respect for him. I just don't see him translating to the mass market. He's a skilled boxer. He listens to his corner. He's got patience. He's got a jab. He's willing to change his strategy fight by fight. Most fighters this day don't change their strategy fight by fight. He's got all. But he doesn't, he's got to have something a little bit more exciting to him.
Okay. And absolutely, finally, Carl Froch, in his legacy, he's going to be fighting, they say, Julio Cesar Chavez in his final fight. That's what they're saying.
Ooh. Man, that's going to be a fight, man. I actually worry about Chavez in that fight because I like Carl Froch because you can never count him out.
Yep.
I never watched him train, but what I see in his fights is he trains really hard and he takes his physical fitness very important. I mean, seriously.
Yep.
I don't know if that's true from your account, but
yes, yeah,
he strikes me as a guy that trains
very
hard.
true.
What do you
very
think?
true. Very true. Chavez is one that we know that has not been so dedicated in the gym previously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but this guy, so Froch, he trains, man. You can't count him out. Got a good chin. And he goes to the body, something that you're not seeing a lot of fighters do as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to the body. He'll take a licking. He'll lose around, and keep on touching the body, touching the body, touching the body, touching the body, touching the body. And then he'll touch you on the chin, and you wonder why your legs buckle.
Yep.
That's a very mature fighter, and I'd love to know more about his corner. So I don't I worry that Chavez. I worry that he'll give Chavez a hard time. Once again, somebody, like you said, I don't know how hard Chavez trains anymore.
So who would you? So you're going with Carl Froch in that fight?
Yeah, I bet my money. I would actually bet on that fight, Carl Froch. I love Chavez because he reminds me of myself. I love him as just another son fighting from a father and son thing.
Yep.
And I wish him the best. But if you're gonna make me put my money on it, I put my money on the guy who trains harder in that fight.
And a points victory or by stoppage?
On the stool. I don't think he may not come out or something like that. Yeah. Or his corner throws in the towel. I don't think you can knock him out. I think someone throws in the towel or the ref stops it. I think it's something like that.
Wow. George Foreman III, thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to Bayloric TV.
Great, man. I'd love to be on anytime. Man. Thanks for chatting with me. That was fun.
Absolutely. I loved mixing up with you, and maybe one day I can get to talk to your old man as well.
Yeah, man. I'm sure he would. Just reach out to him, and I'll follow up with him, too, and tell him to talk to you. You're a nice guy.
Sam, I really appreciate it. Thanks again. Take care.
Take care, dude.